Today I'm going to be putting on some door handles. It's not the funnest job in the world, but it's got to be done. These are 128 millimeter centers. I like to use Imperial, about 5 and between 1/32 and 1/16. So anyways, we're going to get drilling these guys out. Get all the hardware on. I'm going to start with marking out the doors. I'll mark out the drawers and I'll drill everything and we'll get her done. So the first thing we're going to do is figure out exactly where we want to put this handle. There's no real right or wrong place to put it. Some companies I've worked for, they just measure up 3 inches and that's where it goes. Other people will take this line here, bring it across, and that's where you drill your first hole, so it'd sit about there. I like to have them, the line of the stile and rail to line up with the bottom. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever you like. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Some people even do it with knobs. They'll take and they'll just put a line this way and they'll center it and put it there. It's completely up to you. The line on this style is about 1 1/4. The hole is about 1/4 inch up. So I want to have the bottom of my handle kind of in line with that line on the rail. So I'm going to measure 2 1/2. That's my first hole. Now these are 128 millimeter centers, which is about 5 1/32, just under 5 1/16. I do have a metric. I should buy a metric that is metric on both sides, because you run into some weird areas where one side of the tape measure, and so I always just do it in Imperial because it's the same on both sides. This is 2 1/2 plus the 5 and a little bit. 2 1/2, so we're going to go 7 1/2 heavy. Double check, looks pretty good. 2 5/16 to maybe 2 3/8. So I like to keep things round numbers, and again, nobody's gonna notice if you're a little bit one way or the other, as long as they're all the same. So I'm gonna go at 1 3/16. 1 3/16. Again, check this way, stick it on. Looks pretty good. Now that I've got that, what you can do is they have different jigs you can buy that you can set this up. You can make your own jig out of some scrap wood. I don't like that. I find if you make your own, the holes start to get a little bit loose, or you can go in on a bit of an angle. I find with some of the jigs, if something gets loose on the jig that you bought, you've drilled it out and something's not sitting right, all of a sudden all your doors are wrong. This way I can mark it out and double check as I go along to make sure it's in the right spot. Another thing I'll do is I'll take a bunch of combination squares. I got 2 of them. I used to have 3, but I'm missing one. And I'll set up all the measurements on the combination squares, and then I can go through and mark. So in this case, since it's a pretty round number, 2 1/2 and 7 1/2 heavy, I'll go through and mark everything that way, and I will set up a combination square to get my center, but 1 3/16 isn't too bad. And this isn't a huge kitchen, so it's not like it's going to take me a long time to get this all marked out. I'm not too worried about marking on the doors. As long as I keep the marks small, I don't have to clean them off. You can use painter's tape, especially if you have dark cabinets, you want to see them, or if you got to make a bunch of extra marks, which we might do on the drawers. This is thermoform. I'm not worried about marking anything. If you have painted cabinets or you're concerned about it, you should tape them up. Get them all marked out. Work our way down. Check the door swings, you're not putting it on the wrong side. You can actually put little marks on your tape measure if you want. Marking out drawers is a little bit more tricky. This is a 36-inch cabinet, and they usually take a little bit off each side, so it's usually 1/8 of an inch smaller. These are going to be even less. so half of 18. So this is an 18-inch drawer front, subtracting the reveals, usually about 1/8 of an inch smaller. So half of 18 is 9, subtract half an eighth, so just under 9 inches. Double check. Just under 9 inches, not too bad. Okay, oops. We got to do half the handle, so half of 5 is 2.5. So I usually go right up to the 10 mark and go 2.5. Now it's 5 and just over 5 inches. So we're gonna go just past, and same here. Okay. Take our handle and double check. That looks pretty good. Now we'll do the height. So this one is about 6 1/8 on the heavy side. So just over 3. Close one eye and mark it as close as you can. It's not a very, it's kind of tricky with how the style is. And we'll just double check. Yeah. So we're just 3 and 3/32 or so. And again, double check. Good. So now I'll take the measurements from each side. So this one's just under 6.5. This one's just under 6.5. Alright, just over 3. I can just do that on the next one. Just under 6.5. 3 and 3/32. 3 and 3/32. I'll check. Okay, and then I have the same set of drawers over here. So I'll probably just skip down there and do those while I have the numbers fresh in my head. So for these big drawers, anything over 30, oftentimes you can take and put 2 handles on here. Depends on the look you're going for or how big this handle is. If it's sometimes you can put smaller handles and find matches that are bigger. I find even if you put 2 handles on, you're usually just grabbing one anyways. These drawers slide pretty easy, so we're just gonna center. Again, it's whatever you or the customer or whoever's doing it. So we got a 36-inch cabinet. Half of 36 is 18. Minus a reveal, which is about 1/8. So we're just gonna go just under 18. You can double check just to make sure. Again, we can either do half of that or we can go 2.5. As long as, I don't like, some people will do from the 1 mark. I have trouble with that. I like to go to the 10 because then you see a full 2. So you go 2.5 is centered, just heavy. There's the 0. There's 5. Just go just past heavy. Double check. That looks pretty good. And then the height, 11 1/4. 5.5 plus 1/4, so 5 5/8. Double check. Looks pretty good. Just over 15 3/8. Just over 15 3/8. 12.5, so 6 1/4. And double check. We're ready to drill these out. I always have a handle ready to go just to double check. I didn't screw anything up. Good. You want to block back. This will help when you drill through. It doesn't blow the back out and maybe protects your hand a little bit. Just ever so slightly bigger than my actual screw. Double check with your handle, everything's good. I like to give it just a little push. I don't like to use a drill because it'll strip. You can strip out the screws. Maybe one of those little mini screwdriver, powered screwdrivers might work okay. Go. One down, 40 to go. This one's off a little bit. I drilled this hole just a touch too low. This one's okay. So all you gotta do is ream that hole out a little bit and it should work. No problem. Just a little tight. You gotta be careful. These ones are okay because they're pretty thick handles. I've put some real thin ones in before, and you gotta be a little bit more careful. You try and ream them out, then you kind of see that they're not perfect. These bigger ones are a little bit more forgiving. Hey, I'm from the future. As you can see, all the handles are on. I've done a bunch of other stuff to the kitchen. I just need to add a few things. There's a cat. If you get to the drawers and you're finding that the screws that came with the handles are a little bit too big or a little bit too small, you may have to go out and buy some new handles. I usually take these breakaway screws with me when I'm doing a kitchen, and you can just kind of cut them to size on the little break points, or you can take a pair of electrician's wire cutters. They'll usually have a couple spots where you can go and clip off the screws. So in the 8/32 hole, you can take your screw, put it in, clip it off to the size you need, and it should work for your drawer. Other than that, it's pretty basic, straightforward job. Just double check, triple check, because there's nothing worse than having crooked handles. That's it. Thanks so much for watching. Please hit the like button. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.